Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today is another exciting vintage chainsaw BS video. Today we're going to talk about the McCulloch 610 series. These were made for many years. This was the largest selling single model saw ever made, and its main competition was the Homelight XL series, which sold 1 year longer, but these outsold them by some, but not a lot. I used to know a guy who'd work for McCulloch, and they would check to see what models were selling and stuff, and see what they needed to do to upgrade their sales. But anyway, these were the biggest seller. And the main reason for that, there was a lot more McCulloch dealers than there were Homelight dealers. Plus, these are really good old saws that run forever. So, the first saw that I ever got like this was 1980. Paid $35 for it. Was 2 years old at the time. Still using it today. It's out of service right now because the screw holes in the oil tank that holds the side cover on finally failed. So I got to put a different oil tank on it. But this particular one here is just your standard bottom of the line model. This would be used on small farms and homesteads, and of course owners that had small orchards and stuff like that. Got an 18-inch bar. Well, we'll talk about the features of the saw. Layout's very simple and easy to work on. Air filters under here, just real quick access. I have a little gauze filter here. These work pretty good, but you have to maintain them. You have to not use a lot of compressed air to blow it out. It'll blow the fuzz off them. Instant access to the carburetor. It's really easy to remove it when you need to work on it. And the carburetor adjustments are right here out in the open. And you get your fuel tank, and of course your recoil. You got your overriding oil button here, which almost every McCulloch has, which makes the bar and chain last forever. And you get your throttle lock here for starting. You got your choke right here. Your ignition switch is right here. And these are really easy to maintain. The one thing I like on these too is most of the oil pumps for the bar, the automatic oiler, are hidden inside the saw. This is right out in the open. Got 3 screws that holds it on. Just takes a couple of minutes to change it. And we'll be right back here. May not be able to see it, but right on the very top here is a screw. You screw it in, it gets less chain oil, and comes out more oil. So super easy to work on. The other thing on these, the way that they're laid out, you can take the side covers off and get in with a small nozzled air fitting there, and you can blow the crap out of them really easy. A lot of them you got to dismantle them somewhat to get this stuff out of them. Anyway, you got your chain brake here too, but this is just your standard basic model of it. So this is the same exact saw, but it was sold by Montgomery Ward's. They sold it with either an 18-inch bar or a 20-inch bar, but it's exactly 100% the same except for the color. And I just did a video on this a while back. I put a new chain, serviced the bar, did a complete go-through on it, and it's ready to go. This is another series of the saw. This is a Pro Mac 650, still the same displacement. These are all 3 of these so far, 60cc. But this one was a factory hot rod. They had an extra port on the cylinder, get more gas and air in it and stuff, and it put out 30% more power. And so I run a 24-inch bar on this, sometimes a 28. It's more powerful than the others. Weighs a little bit less. It's got more magnesium in it. But these, I kept changing small things on them. The displacement they changed. Originally they were 60cc, and then they had some that we called a 5700 series in later years. It was 57 cc's, and the majority of them are 60cc. Now this is one of the very last McCullochs ever made. They were failing in the market. They wanted to go cheap, so they built a new plant in Mexico, and they opened it and produced saws for just a short time, maybe a couple of months at the most. This is one of them that says assembled in Mexico. They were just basically using up parts because they'd acquired a lot of debt, and the part suppliers cut them off from credit. That was the end of McCulloch. So this was a little bit cheaper version. There's a lot of people complaining about the recoil starters failing on them. It's the same one as the other saws, but they just cheapened it up with more plastic, and these break readily and stuff. So the thing, all you got to do is buy a recoil used one off an older 610 model and put it on there and be good forever. You can say these saws are super durable. They just run and run and run. Don't require much in way of repairs or service really. And the last one we'll show you. This is another timber bear, and it's funny how these companies will do when they keep using the same thing over and over and stuff. They'll just rename it with some new name, trying to, oh man, it's a new model, I gotta go get one. Well, this one is made in Mexico also, but the thing that's interesting about this one, it's basically common as dirt but rare as heck, because it's new old stock. It's never been used. It's one of the very last saws out of the factory before they collapsed. Be back with a little literature here in a minute. Okay, here we have a original 1976 ad. Shows the full line of saws. Right here is the Farm Mac. So that's the start of the 610 series. And next year, 1977, they changed it. This is actually a 1979 brochure here. Pro Mac 610. And then the Pro Mac 650, the hot rod version of it. And later on, they come out with a full line here. And it's called the 5700. And that's because they changed the displacement down to 57 cc's. I believe they were just using up parts because there wasn't a lot of new stuff coming in where they could build them. It was the beginning of the end. And the largest saw they made was a 8200, which is 82 cc. And they had exited the professional market pretty much by then. That was one of their downfalls. And here's our original brochure for the 5700. Shows all the features down here and stuff. But there again, it's the same basic saw. They just never changed anything on it. Didn't really have to. And here's how they cheapen stuff up. Now this is a nice original brochure that they came with most of the saws. And this one here is for that brand new old stock timber bear. It looks like it's made out of recycled toilet paper. And this is a nice brochure. This thing here got saved because they must have had a Sears catalog around or something. Anyway, we'll be back here in a second. Well, I wanted to talk about why I use this saw series more than any other. It's what I started with. They've always performed superbly, and I need very few repairs and stuff like that. I bought newer saws over the years because I want something lighter and quieter. They're all in the junkyard. They don't last. The 50-to-1 oil mix and the high RPM don't cut it. Anyway, the thing on these, they're super durable. That and the XL series. Some of the home lights are probably the two longest lasting saws ever built. Also the power, and you know, I could have been a home light guy too or whatever. It was just dumb luck because, you know, I bought the first saw at an estate sale. Plus we had a really good dealer in town there. It was a big dealership. They sold every saw from the smallest to the largest, Had everyone in stock, a really nice display, had a really nice parts department. The guy that ran it was also the owner. He knew everything about them. He'd go in and tell him what you would need, and he wouldn't even look it up. He'd just go pull it off the shelf. And if you couldn't work on it yourself, he had guys there that were true mechanics that could fix anything. They did boat motors and repairs. They also sold boats, but those guys were really, really good. If you ever had a question, they'd answer it right now and help you out. Sorry we're missing that today. Anyway, the only thing that a lot of chainsaw forums and stuff, they talk about the weight on these things, so let's weigh it and see here. Yeah, it's right at 21 pounds, ready to go with a 24-inch bar. The XL here, it's got a 24-inch bar. It's 17.5 pounds, so just a little difference there. But what does that mean in the real world? Well, if you have to complain about the weight of it, that means one thing: that you're a weenie and you need to toughen up. The benefit of a heavier saw like that is when you're cutting, the weight of the saw is pushing down. You don't have to put as much energy. If you have a real lightweight saw and stuff, you're really forcing it to cut. These old ones, and then just set it close. It's not like you're picking it up and hiking through the woods for 10 miles with it. So anyway, that's why I use these as my primary saws. The other thing is, since I'm Mr. Thrifty, all 6 saws I have got 180 bucks in it. So that's another good reason to own these old saws. You can buy these on Craigslist and eBay for 50 to 125 bucks, and a lot of them are still really nice condition. Parts availability is still really good on them. Like I say, simple and straightforward to work on. Just makes sense. Well, I thought we'd do a little chainsaw action. We've talked about them and stuff, so we'll actually run them. Wanted to talk about something I forgot to mention the other day on the features of these saws. This has anti-vibration mounts all the way through it, and my old XL12 doesn't have any of that stuff. But if you have a problem with your fingers or your wrists and elbows and stuff, this is a good choice because they're a smooth running saw, plus they have the anti-vibe. And the other thing that I do before I start cutting, virtually every McCulloch has an overriding oil pump. So what I do, give it a couple of quick pumps, and then I pull the chain through. And you can see how easy that moves and stuff. So it pre-lubes the bar, so when you're starting it, it's not dry. Most new saws you can't do that. So anyway, then we had several people asking how to start these saws. So first thing we want to do is check the bar oil and the fuel, which we've done. And then the next thing you want to do is set your throttle for the high idle, and pull on your choke and turn on your ignition switch. Now this saw has sat for about 4 years. I dug it out, put some fresh gas in, it started right up and adjusted the car, but we'll see how it starts today. It's fairly cold out, so well, you can see it'll smoke a little bit when it's a rich condition like that. When I'm warming it up, if I give it throttle and it bogs down, that means that it's still cold. So we need to run it a bit, warm it up thoroughly. Be right back. Okay, it's warmed up. So we'll start with the smallest one. This is 54 cc. We'll do 3 little cuts. Okay, well, this is our Montgomery Ward's version of a Pro Mac 610. Just a standard basic model. Just the regular features. It does have a chain brake and stuff. Anyway, it's warmed up, so we'll light it off. This is 60cc. You see that cut's good. It's like I say, these were sold as a heavy-duty farm saw, firewood cutting, homeowner saw. Okay, we'll be back with another one. Okay, well, this is the third saw. This is a Pro Mac 650. It's also a 60cc saw. This is a factory hot rod. Had extra porting in the cylinder. Has 30% more power. And it's lighter than the other standard basic models. Anyway, we'll get it started here. You can see that extra power. It doesn't bog down like the other saws do if it gets a little tough cut through a knot here. Anyway, we'll be back after a bit and have some bigger wood. Okay, well, we got some bigger wood. This is about 8 inches diameter. That's about the absolute max that the smart holder can hold. But anyway, we got a big knot right in here where another branch came out, so we'll cut here and here. And we'll start out with a timber bear, the small one, 54cc. So we'll be back when the saw's ready. Okay, well, we just did the last cut with the Montgomery Ward's 610 wannabe. But anyway, this is the 650. This has a little bit more power. I did notice that the chain's pretty dull on it, so it doesn't cut as fast as it should. But anyway, we'll do a couple of quick cuts with it here. You can see, even with a dull chain, it cuts faster than the other saws. Do one more cut here. This smart holder was a really good thing to have here. We'll do our last cut here. Well, that's why these saws are my number one. They're super durable, last forever, powerful, fast cutting, inexpensive, everything I need. Obsolete vintage is best. See you soon.